Welcome back, guys, to another video. Today I'm here with our co-founder Chewy over at Future Creatures, and today we had a guy in the comments asking us about what it's like to change out the soil and what do we do with isopods that we don't or aren't able to change out exactly. So we're going to be doing a ton of bins today. We're only going to show you these first four, and the first species that we're actually going to be moving out are the blue powdered, the pudding clowns. We also have which ones were they over here? We have the Ukraine pie as well as the Oreo crumble. The Oreo crumble I know definitely needs it because I didn't put that thick of a layer of dirt in there. So it does not keep humidity that well, especially since in this bin I cracked it that much. So it kind of lets a lot more air in there to dry it out. We do have a little bit of mold in here, and that's why we're going to go ahead and do that. There are some bins that are a little bit worse, but don't necessarily want to show them on here right now because I want to make a video specifically about mold growth in your environments. We'll touch on that topic a little bit today, but we're not going to be doing that overall for this video, but we will make another one for that. But let's start off with just putting these bins together. I'm going to have Chewy demonstrate how we like to put our bins. These are 54 quart tubs, and we already have some of them that are pre put together. We just have to mix everything in, and we got two more that we have to build up. And these two, we're going to go ahead and start that process of how we put our bins together. Now for isopods, we all know they are decomposers. Now being a decomposer means you usually don't get the nutrients that you need or that what most organisms would need. So your body is okay and comfortable with going on less and less objects to actually consume, the less nutrients. But for ours, we do put enough nutrients in there to where they are thriving. And then we'll add some supplemental foods like bug burger, morning wood, and some other things in there for their dry food that they like to eat throughout the week. So what we're going to start off today is with this bag. This is just organic. Let's take a look at it. We get it from our local Menards here in Illinois. This is just organic raised bed planting mix. We're going to go ahead and pour this inside of the enclosure. What we like to do for that is we like to have at least 2 inches to 2.5 inches of substrate. Chewy, you can go ahead and pour it in that one. We poured it in here, and you guys can see it is a little bit taller in the back. So right here, it's already showing around those 2 inches. But we do, once we spread that out, it's going to go up a little bit more around that 2.5 to 3 inches. That's where we like it for our bins. People have asked us about the holes, if we see any escapees or anything. Really, the only time you're going to see escapees, as in isopods, are if you're spraying with water and you let the water dry on the plastic and all the minerals in the water, the hard water, the calcium and all of that, will create a little bit of a foothold for some isopods to escape. We focus on that by, as you can see, we wipe it off right here. So you don't get to see it down here, not so much, but we don't have any isopods escaping. So in here, this is how we're going to do these bins as well. We got these 4 that we're moving in, and all we do is, this is our mixture. So we have sphagnum moss, we have organic leaves, or just leaves from our backyard, which I know is pesticide free. We've been using these for years now, and just organic dirt. That is just the mixture. This one already has springtails, and so does that one. I've been letting them sit in there, but we created a bunch of master colonies of springtails to be able to overload these guys, so it doesn't take as long to cycle through. But in here, as you can see, it's literally just dirt. There's no mixture of anything else, just dirt, the leaves, and the sphagnum moss. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mix this all the way through. I want to explain the layers of the reasons why we put this in here. Now, the reason why we put leaves inside of an enclosure is because leaves are natural, so they do not mold as much as like if you put bug burger or another supplemental food, fish food, that is commonly used with isopods. They don't mold like that. So you're able to put them inside of the dirt. Like this bin has been kind of just sitting in here for the last 2 weeks or so, but you guys can see the leaves are not molding. They do break down over time, and that's where the isopods come into play. So we have a food source in there at all times with the leaves, and even a little bit from the sphagnum moss. They don't really prefer the sphagnum moss. It's more of we use it more for the humidity, to keep the humidity up within the tank, as well as allow air pockets within the soil, so it keeps the soil healthy for the isopods, especially the ones that burrow like the giant canyons, to be able to live a good life inside of here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just like this. We're just going to mix all of these bins. We're going to be adding sphagnum moss to those two, and then we have the pieces of cork bark as well as limestone that we put in there a little bit later on. We'll do that after the video is done. but we do have limestone that we do put inside of these enclosures. So today, all we're gonna do is go ahead and mix this. I'm gonna cut out this video and come back when we're done mixing it, and then show you guys what it's like to transfer isopods over and what we do with the extra isopods that we can't do anything about. So yeah, I will be right back. All right, so I went ahead and mixed these while Chewy was getting this extra sphagnum moss ready. These enclosures are now done. That is all you really need, besides for putting the cork bark on top, of course. But as you guys can see, the dirt and the sphagnum moss is mixed in here, or the leaves and the sphagnum moss is mixed in here with the dirt, the organic dirt. So all we like to do, if you're doing a soil change, there's a few different ways that you can do it. We as breeders, we breed a lot, and we try our best to keep every single isopod alive, but sometimes that is pretty hard to do, or extremely time consuming to be able to do. So we do recycle our dirt, so the dirt does not go to waste. So some of the isopods that we do lose while we transfer bins don't go to waste as well. That is, we use that more for the planters that we have outside. We're going to be creating mixes for dirt. So if you guys are going to be growing plants, that's what we're going to start using that for, and bringing it to shows and bagging it up that way. So you guys can have, you know, organic dirt to be able to, for a nice cheap price that has been loaded with a bunch of nutrients that'll last your plants a very long time as well. So that's what we like to do. We basically are bioactive in our business as well, not just what we sell, but how we like to run it. So what we're going to be doing here is literally exactly this. Can you open that side up, Chewy? So from here, we literally will open this up. You guys can see this is our bin for our blue powdered. These guys, you guys can see the hard water that I mentioned on the sides. Or no, that's actually, I can feel it, but you guys can't see it that much on the camera. Maybe down there, if you guys see what I'm wiping off. But over here, we have a ton of blue powders like that. So from there, all we do is, I don't want to put that over any other bin. We'll put that in here. Chewy, if you can hold that. And all we're going to do is just tap that into there. Now you guys can see, you guys can go over the top of it. And you guys can see how many are actually in there now for our blue powder. Now our blue powder and all of our powdered species breed so fast that we don't always need so many. We don't need them just in one bin. So I'm just going to put that in there, and we're going to spread them out. Now you don't have to tap off the cork bark if you're going to put it back in the enclosure. But what I'm doing is, since I have this other piece of cork bark, I am going to lift this one up. You guys can see just how many we have there. And then put that inside of this enclosure. And that's why I didn't put any moss or sphagnum moss over there, is because that's all I'm going to do. Now there are some that are in here left. Now there's a few decisions that you guys can make while you guys are breeding isopods of what you want to do with these guys. You can put a piece of cork bark in there, catch them all, and then put them in the respective bins. But when we have a species that breeds so fast like this, we give it around 15 to 20 minutes after removing the main pieces of cork bark that they're on, to collect as many as we can. So the way that we're going to do that is this is not the only one, but we're just going to be putting little pieces of cork bark around the enclosure like that, and whichever ones go onto there, there's another one over there, Chewy. Whichever isopods go on there are the isopods that will also be transferred into these new enclosures. Now we like to do that because just like that, and I don't think we have any.
We have to break that one up.
Yeah, we have to break that one up. But the reason why we do that is because it is not, from a business standpoint, it is not necessarily beneficial to spend hours and hours and hours to do this, because this does take us, when we first were starting, this does take us days to be able to fully sort out as many as we can. So between like the zebras, the blue powdered, all the species that breed extremely fast for us, it was hard to do that. So what we do is, like I said, we will do this. There's some, not just yet, but there's some that'll stay under there. They like to move around. And then from there, we go ahead and you guys can see all the cracks in the dirt. It's starting to get, the dirt was starting to get worn. It's starting to get used a lot. So that is why when it starts coming up like that, it is definitely needing to be replaced. And that's why we're replacing them from here. But overall, that is the reason why, or that is one way that you can separate these guys into the new bin. The other way that you can do is you can split this into sections. So you can do half, you could do 3/4 or a quarter in each, and put a quarter of that dirt inside a new bin and just add dirt to it. So then you can create that beneficial bacteria that's already in here. You can transfer that over into these enclosures. Now, that's another way of doing it, but that way just takes a little bit too much for us to be able to spread them out that way. The reason why is we'd rather just start off fresh with new soil. That's going to take another 6 months for us before we have to change them out. As you guys can see, a lot of these have like the date of August, and that was kind of like the last time we really did soil changes for these guys. So that's why we're going to be doing a lot today. But overall, those are the two main ways that you can actually trade out the isopods. Now, the next question is, what are we going to do with the isopods in here? Now, what we're going to do, it is still winter outside, so what we're actually going to do is put these inside of bags and then take them outside where it's cold. Now, it's around 30, it was, what was it, like 19 degrees last night?
Yeah, right now you can have a cookout, so.
No, you can have a cookout because you're in Chicago, not because it's that warm. I think it's only like 30-something degrees right now, but it's been 19 over the last few days, so today is warm for us. But what we like to do with the rest of these guys is we see all the little babies, we see all them moving around in there, but this dirt is pretty much used up. Now, there's a bunch of nutrients in there, but even though we're going to freeze it, it's not going to mess with how good this dirt is going to be for plants. So we are going to be starting to grow plants, like we're growing a bunch of pothos and stuff right now for bioactive enclosures. But for this, this is the dirt that we're going to use for that. Instead of buying just other bags of dirt, and instead of just pouring them right in here, we're going to use the dirt that's already used from the isopods. So see, there's none that are coming up here. And when they don't like to come up here and we can't catch them, that's kind of what happens to them. We're going to go ahead and put this inside of a bag and then just take this outside. It's the same as putting it in your freezer. It's a more humane way to be able to dispose of the isopods. And basically just has them go to sleep. And then from there, we'll leave them out there for a day or 2 days. Unless you're putting them in the freezer, then you can leave it there for, I'd say, at least 6 to 8 hours. And then once they pass away, then you can use that dirt for all of your plants, or you can go ahead and just put it in some of your house plants right now, if you wanted to. I do not recommend putting them, it's not that I do not recommend. I will say do not put them outside if it is good enough for them to survive, and then you'll have invasive colony of isopods being able to breed inside of your compost bin or your garden bed. But for now, this bin we are done with, so we're going to go ahead and take that over there. Well, Chewy's going to be taking that over there. And then over here, we're going to check on these bins. Now, in here, you guys can see all the ones that are surviving. They're thriving. They're still underneath the cork bark, just like that. This bin is now done and completed. All we're going to do now that we separated them back into 2 bins, which we've always needed to do, we're going to just water them a little bit and then add a little bit more leaves on the top. And then that's it. These bins are now done. That is how you do a successful soil change for the isopods. So those are the 2 ways that you can do it. But let's go ahead and do it for the rest of the bins as well. All right, guys. So we went ahead and we just finished those bins. We put them over there. Those were the blue powdered. Now over here, you want to come take a look. These are our Oreo crumble isopods. So these are the same species as the blue powdered. That's why they breed extremely fast. But with this air hole, you can see the dirt itself gets very dry in here. It's more wet or more moist down there. Yeah, it's more wet or more moist down there, but up here, you can see that we have a ton of blue powders. And that's just on this one. Now, if you guys want to take a look at this one has a ton as well. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to do the same thing with these guys. Is we're going to be putting a few in here, just like that. Give it a little tap. Knock a good number off. And then the rest of these are going to be going inside of the other bin. So we're just going to grab this, come down here with them, and then tap them in there. Now they're going to be thriving inside of that enclosure. There's not too many that's on here. And we'll just spread this out just a little bit more. We're not compacting it, so we're not going to be hurting any of them, but just spreading this out just a little bit more to make it a little bit more even. But overall, I'm just going to set this in there. We're going to be adding a little bit more sphagnum moss into one side of the enclosure, and I'm going to be doing more on this side because there's no air hole right here. So I'm going to move this actually. So there's no air hole over here, so that's going to be the humid side of the enclosure, while this side is going to be more of the dry side. So that is why I'm putting the sphagnum moss there. That's how I'm going to be setting up the bins for them. Now, if you look back in here, compared to this dirt that we just did, fresh, it's easily movable. This dirt itself is a little bit more dry and rough and rugged, and I think that's mainly because it is only that deep. Here's the bottom. It is not that deep of dirt, so having them in there for as long as we've had them in there is not as suitable as with our other enclosures, like our dairy cows. Those are put in the same size bin, just with thicker dirt, or a thicker layer of dirt, and it keeps the humidity in there nice, and exactly how we want over this long time, for the last like 4 to 6 months that we've had them in there. So in here, we're gonna be doing the same exact things as we did with the blue powder, and we're just gonna be waiting. So as they come onto this piece of wood, we're just gonna go ahead and just knock them off sideways into the new enclosures. And we're just gonna be doing that a few more times, because if you wanna look inside this bin one more time, we still have a ton more that's in here. But remember, we can't keep every single baby alive. It's impossible to set a goal that it's impossible to do. One's gonna get crushed, a few might get crushed, but that is why we breed as a business tons of them. Now, we do care about our isopods, so we're not going out here spraying pesticides or anything like that. We want to make sure that they live a good, healthy home, and sometimes some of them are on the expense list of moving them over into a new bin. Now, this dirt is another reason why we're not going to take half or a quarter of this dirt and mix it in with new dirt. This dirt is no longer good for the isopods. It still can be good for plants. While the plants are rooting and aerating the soil again, it can be good for them, but it's no longer beneficial for the isopods to stay in there. Even though these guys, the blue powdered, or the Priscilla pruinosa species, is really good at the dry side and humid side of enclosures. They're okay with both and they breed well. You don't want to keep them like that unless you have to. So unless you're purposely putting them in an enclosure with the bearded dragon, where it's a little bit drier, then that's one thing. But for the enclosures that we like to breed them in, we want to make sure that they have the best life possible, that they're able to breed in a stress-free environment, and that sometimes happens to be at the expense of some of them when we're transferring them over. But this is why we're moving them from just one bin and spreading it out into 2 bins. Now, at this moment, we don't like to go past more than 2 bins for a lot of our species. And what we'll do instead is we'll just add more to the counts that we sell and keep it at that same price. So if you guys are at one of the shows and come to the booth called Featured Creatures, then instead of putting like a 15 count, which is the bare minimum for all of our species, we'll do a 20, 25, sometimes even 30 count for the same price that we did for the 15 count. And we already discount that because we like to put a 10 count price for our 15 count. So you get a really good deal with all of the isopods that we're putting in there. So we don't charge you for the extras. We don't charge you if you have to put in a bigger cup, like a 16 ounce. We like to keep it at that fixed price of, I believe these guys are going for the $24.99 right now at the moment at our shows, and you're getting a 15 count minimum, and not just babies and adults. You're getting adults, a mixture, so you're going to see babies almost within the first month of having them. So these bins are now basically done. We're just going to go ahead and keep doing, as I'm talking, fixing this over, grabbing some. Every few that we can get out is more beneficial to not just us, but each and every one of our colonies that we have. But like I said, we can't do it for everything. So that is the unfortunate part about breeding isopods or breeding small insects, is that sometimes there just happens to be a lot. You can say the same thing for some fruit flies, even some superworms, as well as some other insects and invertebrates. We have these guys, which are our springtails, which I went in our last bin, and these guys are super small that sometimes just grabbing a piece of charcoal may kill something. because your finger may crush them or something like that. And that's not something you can control over everything. We do try and do it the best and most humane way possible, to where at least 99% of them survive the transfer. But those are, like I said, those are the two ways that you guys can go ahead and switch out your isopods into new dirt. We didn't demonstrate the one way, which is taking out some soil, but we did demonstrate this way of how we do it here at Future Creatures. And that is literally just by transferring them over by the cork bark. Once we place it down, they'll go back and climbing under the cork bark after they calm down and get a little bit less stressed. And then we'll just go ahead and transfer them over that way. So even in this enclosure, as you can see, they are just moving around. There is a ton of them. And that's just what you're seeing on the top side of the enclosure. Not even what's underneath the dirt. Because we don't compact the soil or we don't push it down as we're putting it in there. We let the isopods be able to do that and create the tunnels that they want to. So they don't only get the nutrients of the leaves that are on top of the soil, but they can get the nutrients, the humidity, and everything else throughout the soil and throughout the enclosure. So that is that's our video on how we like to transfer isopods. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys did, please leave a comment. You guys have been doing really good at leaving the comments under the videos. And like, comment, subscribe, and then we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace! Oh, and one last thing I wanted to show you guys. This is the reason why some of your isopods may be escaping. Even though our holes are all the way up here, and it is clean, more on the plastic going up to the holes, anytime you have even dirt hanging on there that's going to stick, or any water from the hard water that's out of your faucets or tap water, that is the reason why some of your guys might be escaping. So that's another tip. Peace out.